Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. CIA director suggests Clinton could face criminal prosecution as part of Obama RUSSIAGATE investigation. This is huge. This is the Independent. To my super chat, thank you so very much. Your support is so greatly appreciated. Let's get started. Most people aren't talking about this, but it's a very, very important issue. Comey, James, and others. Well, Comey and Letitia James will be indicted again, almost certainly. We talked about that in the uploads. Clinton faces indictment in 2026. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat, thank you. This is the evidence. The Durham probe declassified documents. Declassified documents prove, or at least illustrate, that Clinton and others, the DNC, fabricated Trump Russia. They broke laws in trying to set up and frame Trump. By the way, I don't have anything against the Clintons, against Hillary, against Bill, against any Democrats. It is what it is. There's no animus. I'm not like a frothing at the mouth, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrat that sees red and, hyperventilates when they hear the word President Trump. I love President Trump, but that doesn't mean I have to despise Hillary and, Democrats. They committed crimes. I don't dislike Clinton, but crimes were committed. Check this out.
Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley is out with a new batch of documents pertaining to the Trump-Russia investigation. And the newly declassified documents were allegedly held.
So Clinton will be indicted along with a whole bunch of other people. Comey and others, Brennan, will face indictments in 2026, probably sooner, in December of 25.
And burn bags in a secret room at FBI headquarters. Those would be containers that hold classified docs meant to be destroyed after a specified time. It's 29 pages, an annex or addendum to the 2023 Durham report, exposing a reported Clinton campaign plot to falsely tie President Trump to Russia. Here's Chairman Grassley.
I think we need maximum transparency on all the schemes that were going on 10 years ago to either stop Trump from being elected or after he was elected to ruin his presidency. And that's what this Durham report is all about. It was all effort of total distraction and to make it look like Russia was playing a very major role in helping Trump to be elected, and now we know none of that was true. And now with this Durham report annex out, it finally proves that the FBI was covering up.
Look, the story started breaking right.
The Durham probe annex, in addition to the Director of National Intelligence declassified documents, prove that criminal behavior took place.
Before those comments, so those were Grassley's first reactions to this less than an hour ago. Justice correspondent David Spunt now. David.
Well, hi, Harris. Special counsel John Durham's investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia narrative began in 2019, ended 4 years later in 2023. Now, he took two people to trial, lost both times, but he did, Harris, secure a plea deal with a former FBI lawyer. Durham's final report, a 300-page document. Here he is in 2023.
Our findings were sobering. I can tell you, having spent 40 years plus as a federal prosecutor, they were particularly sobering to me.
Now, for the first time, we're seeing this declassified now annex. It's 29 pages. It discusses more allegations and information about the Clinton campaign's alleged efforts to discredit then candidate Trump. Durham obtained emails via Russian intelligence, and the emails were allegedly written by a man named Leonard with the Open Society Foundation. That's the foundation tied to George Soros. According to the annex, Leonard writes about a Clinton campaign advisor named Julianne. She's also referred to by Julie and Julia. One of the emails says, Julie says it will be a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump.
there are probably, likely, potentially, as the Honorable James Comey says, potentially about 50 to 100 people involved. I don't think 100 people will be indicted. I think about 20 plus people will be indicted. But there are likely over 100 people involved in setting up and framing Trump at the DOJ, the FBI, NSA, CIA, ODNI, when Clapper and Brennan and Comey and all of those people were there. That doesn't mean 100 people will be indicted. I think that 20 plus people will be indicted in the next year.
Now it is good for a post-convention bounce. Later, the FBI will put more oil into the fire. In another email obtained by Durham, Leonard allegedly wrote, HRC, meaning Hillary Rodham Clinton, approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. That should distract people from her own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. Now, Mr. Durham interviewed Julie, who told him that she didn't draft or recall receiving any of these Leonard emails. The annex goes on to explain that the FBI was fully alerted to the possibility that at least some of the information it received about the Trump campaign might have origins with the Clinton campaign or Russian disinformation, but the FBI apparently dismissed that information, quote, as not credible without any investigative steps actually having been taken to either corroborate or disprove the allegations. I want to be clear, we've reached out to those mentioned in this annex that I just brought up in this report, but we have yet to hear back. Harris?
David, you are.
The White House says Hillary Clinton's campaign financed the Russia.
So the DNC paid a Federal Election Commission fine for financing the Steele dossier. Imagine if Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump purchased a dossier that said that Clinton or Harris or President Obama were in a Moscow hotel room doing salacious things. They would never, the New York Times, the Washington Post would never stand for it. They would never allow that type of thing to take place. What took place against Trump was so outlandish, was so breaking norms and traditions. It's unbelievable, but let's continue.
Hoax. Watch.
This should be a story every outlet in this room should be covering. This is further evidence that Hillary Clinton approved the Russia hoax against President Trump. Her campaign financed it. Again, she approved it. And the FBI and the CIA were both weaponized to, as our director of CIA has said, accelerate this hoax against then candidate and former President Trump. To answer the heart of your question, the president wants to see justice served, and he trusts the Attorney General and the Department of Justice to implement that justice and hold these people accountable.
Florida Congressman Byron Donalds joins me now. Congressman, surely there will be a full-scale investigation of this. That's what you would expect, right?
Absolutely. There needs to be a full-scale investigation. With respect to the Hillary Clinton campaign paying for the Steele dossier and other elements, in the Financial Services Committee, we had a former SEC Commissioner Gary Gensler in committee. And I questioned Mr. Gensler about this very fact, about did he sign off on the checks that paid for the Steele dossier that we now know without any shadow of a doubt was false, a false narrative, concocted materials and evidence for the entire purpose of spying on President Trump's campaign in 2016 and starting this Russia probe, which was, in my view, the real thing that was destroying our democracy. And that's the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, wanting so desperately to defeat Donald Trump that they were using the intelligence community, laundering phony intelligence, and their Hillary Clinton campaign paying for it. And so, yes, it needs to be investigated much more broadly.
I should tell our audience that Fox Business reached out to Hillary Clinton's team for a response to the story. We have not heard back from that team at this point. Congressman, Biden's longtime aide, Mike Donovan, he just testified in the Biden probe. He says Democrats overreacted to the catastrophic debate. Biden was capable of doing the job. And now Axios is reporting that Donovan was promised $8 million.
They're always scheming. It's unbelievable. Cheating Bernie Sanders in 2016. We're still living in 2016. In 2016, the paradigm shifted. It wasn't the normal, traditional, benign, or I should say, it wasn't the boring, traditional political cycle. 2016 changed everything. When they cheated Bernie Sanders and they framed and set up Trump, the past 10 years has not been indicative of traditional U.S. history. It's very different. It's very different, and it has a Clintonian element to it, which President Trump will address via indictments.
If Biden won the election, what is going on here, Congressman?
Mundane. That's the word I was looking for. Mundane. American politics was always, like any country, there could be vicious or dirty or nefarious or, cutthroat political endeavors. There was never the type of bizarre, warped, twisted, disgusting type of politics that took place in 2016 through the present day. From 2016 to 2025, we entered the twilight zone. This is the twilight zone. But anyway, let's continue. If you understand that this is the twilight zone, hit subscribe to this channel right now. I think my longtime viewers and my new viewers understand this.
First of all, nobody believes Mr. Donlin. The Democrats were concerned. Listen, the debate was disastrous. I was there. The American people saw it. But don't forget, I think it was 2 weeks before the debate, Joe Biden went and did this now famed fundraiser with Barack Obama and George Clooney, and it is clear they're having to help him off the stage. Apparently last night, he gave some speech last night, and they literally walk him to the podium for him to start his remarks. Joe Biden has not been mentally capable for quite some time. Mr. Donlin is covering up, quite frankly, because they have a long relationship, and I respect that. And if you have a long relationship with somebody, you try to do your best to protect them. But one thing is clear, Joe Biden was not running the country. He wasn't mentally capable of running the country. And so we need to continue to investigate Mr. Donlin's comments, and the fact that he was going to be paid $8 million by the president's campaign, President Biden, if he had won, demonstrates that he's trying to protect his client, his longtime associate, as opposed to telling the truth to the American people.
Is that normal in politics? You get a 4 or 5, a big bonus if you win. Is that common?
Yeah, it happens a lot. It happens more than people realize. And so, look, I think one of the things when you talk about the swamp, part of the swamp is all of the people who come up and they're around a candidate or an elected official. And so there's a lot of long-time relationships that exist in politics. And I think that's one of the reasons why you get a lot of internal infighting that happens all the time, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are going to make money on political success.
Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much to my super chat. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, as always in Australia. I can't thank you enough, Paul. Thank you so much.
That's the truth. You're making a push to reopen the launch pad in Cape Canaveral. That's a name I remember from the distant past. Why do you want to reopen it?
Well, first of all, it was an aged launch pad, one that wasn't being utilized anymore. We have the space to continue the expansion of space operations here at Cape Canaveral. And so it makes sense for this work to be done. I actually was able to tour the pad yesterday. It's not something that you wanted to put the new Starship rocket from SpaceX on. You don't want to use.
So the declassified documents from the Durham probe annex basically prove a conspiracy. This is Hannity talking about that conspiracy.
Welcome to Hannity, and as we begin tonight, we have breaking news. A former high-ranking FBI special agent, his name is Charles McGonigal. Now, he just pled guilty to violations of U.S. sanctions and laundering payments from a Russian oligarch. Wow, here's the important part to note, and that is Charles wasn't just any rank and file member of the FBI. No, senior agent had a prominent role in forming, ironically, Operation Crossfire Hurricane and perpetuating the Russia hoax, and the hoax that John Durham said that never should have existed. Let me put it simply. The guy that was out there accusing President Trump of colluding with Russia, he was the one that was actually colluding with Russia. Don't worry. He will be the next hero guest on MSDNC and Fake News CNN. But McGonigal, well, he wasn't alone. And we begin tonight with this, a simple truth and a sad reality. The United States of America today does not have equal justice under the law. It does not have equal application of our laws. We have a dual justice system. We do have a DOJ that has been politicized and it has been weaponized in ways this country's never seen before. Some examples. Let's look at Hillary Clinton and her 2016 campaign, paying an ex-foreign spy, Christopher Steele, a ton of money to put together campaign op research that was filled with Russian disinformation against then candidate Donald J.
So the Democrats literally used a document that was filled with disinformation from an adversary. As they were apoplectic and pontificating about foreign interference.
J. Trump, that op research known as the Hillary Clinton dirty Russian dossier, that was farmed out to every media outlet, government institution in America as, quote, real intelligence, all in a phony effort to first shape the 2020 election results, and then afterwards, when they lost, then to use those to question the results after Donald Trump won. In America today, if you are a prominent Democrat, your last name's Clinton or Biden, it's totally okay to deny election results. You can even use Russian disinformation to do it. All. But if your last name is Trump, if you're a Republican, a conservative, you'll be indicted for jaywalking, likely facing 10 years in jail. Late last night, more charges for Donald Trump and 18, quote, co-conspirators out of Atlanta for challenging the results of the 2020.
And that was tossed out the other day.
2020 election. Now, with these additional 13 charges, well, Donald Trump faces a whopping 712 years, 6 months in prison, more than,
President Trump faced 712 years in prison. Could you imagine if Trump had leveled 712 years in prison for Clinton or anyone else? And Democrats and media have the audacity, the unmitigated audacity to state that he's on a revenge tour. The retribution took place when Trump won. The system, the machine, the two-sided, corrupt political monstrosity went after Trump, and he won, thank God. Thank God Trump won.
The most convicted killers on the streets that we don't even arrest, or if we do arrest them, we let them back out in minutes. Anyway, it's not just enough to beat Donald Trump politically, not in today's America, not in Joe Biden's America.
So this is from 2 years ago, but it's apropos today.
America, not with Joe Biden's DOJ. No, today's Democrats in Biden's weaponized justice system, they now want Biden's chief political rival to be dead, to die in prison for challenging an election or having views they don't agree with. And right on cue and lacking any and all self-awareness, and you really can't make this up, one of America's most prominent 2016 election deniers, the person that bought and paid for the dirty Russian dossier, Hillary Clinton herself, heads on over to very friendly territory over at MSDNC. Why? To celebrate Donald Trump's indictment and scold any and all Americans who dare to question the legitimacy of an election.
So nobody in media, Democratic Party, late night Hollywood, nobody thought Trump would win. I was consistently stating that Trump would win again. Just like I said Trump would defeat Clinton. But let's continue.
And by the way, you're about to see hypocrisy and dishonesty in a way that's almost surreal. It's poetic. Take a look.
So this attack on the elections was the most important step in a long line of efforts undertaken to undermine our trust and our belief in.
So I don't have an apoplectic hysterical reaction to Clinton or Democrats like the morally superior among us with President Trump. I find it amusing, the semantic, monstrosity, the butchering of words and meanings and definitions and semantics. There's nothing really that Clinton or anyone else is saying. They're just saying that something bad happened and we need to go after Trump.
A functioning democracy and our commitment to one person, one vote.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
Is that not election denial? And nobody stole anything. If anybody stole anything, they stole it from Bernie Sanders, who would have been a terrible president. And I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. The unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. It's embarrassing for me and anyone who supports Bernie Sanders. Believe me. Don't think I'm not embarrassed also. Don't think, if you're embarrassed that nobody knows who I am, thank God. It's fantastic. But if anyone says, oh my God, could you believe H.A. Badman was... Yeah, it's embarrassing for me also, because he would have been a terrible president. He would have jumped whenever the Democrats said jump. He would have said, how high? How high do you want me to jump? Trump stopped endless wars, brought American jobs back from outsourcing, enforces immigration laws, which is what Bernie Sanders wanted. Okay, Donald Trump, thank God, is the Bernie Sanders that actually has a soul, a spine, a heartbeat. And God bless Bernie Sanders. He has a heartbeat, but politically, he doesn't have a spine. Trump does.
One of the things that we've learned by living it in these past few years is that democracy needs the trust of the people.
That's right.
Democracy needs the trust of the people, which is a Steele dossier purchased by the Democrats to frame and set up Trump, to accuse him of something he didn't do, which has never happened before in American history. An incoming president framed and set up by the incumbent.
That the system of democracy at its heart is the idea that the people get to decide how we are governed. Russia, the Russian government, Russian military, Russian intelligence interfered in the U.S. presidential election.
This is absurd nonsense. The opposite is true. Maddow might not know that Hillary Clinton's campaign wanted to elevate Trump. The DNC emails, or the Clinton campaign emails, show, and they were published by The Guardian, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others, the Independent, BBC. Hillary Clinton's campaign, the DNC, actually published that they wanted to elevate Ted Cruz, Dr. Ben Carson, and Donald J. Trump. Now, how could the Russians and the Clinton campaign both want to elevate Trump? Well, the Clinton campaign wanted to elevate Trump because they thought they could defeat him. There was no intelligence that the Russians wanted to elevate Trump. We know that from Tulsi Gabbard's declassified intelligence and John Ratcliffe's declassified Durham probe annex. There was no intelligence. It was completely fabricated. There was not a shred of... Why did they invade? Why did Russia invade under Biden's watch? That should answer all the nonsense regarding Trump and Russia. The whole thing was fabricated. Russia was not afraid of Democrats. No adversary is afraid of Democrats. What adversary would be afraid of a political party that doesn't want to enforce immigration laws, is fine with private servers with top secret intelligence illegally transferred and impossibly, from a cybersecurity perspective, transferred onto them, What adversary would be afraid of that type of political party? Man, let's continue.
2016 to try to help Donald Trump win that election.
But I don't know that anybody should be satisfied. This is a terrible moment for our country to have a former president accused of these terribly important crimes.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. If bad actors tell us falsely that every election is stolen and that the only way an election is...
If bad actors tell us, is the average American a complete imbecile? Do we not have free will? Do we not have, a mind and intelligence? And why would other countries want to lead us towards Trump and away from Democrats? If anything, again, the adversaries of this country would want Democrats to win. Private servers with top secret intel, zero enforcement of immigration, a complete, abandonment of sovereignty to multinational organizations. Graft and bribery and graft and money going to. You see that right now with Waltz, Governor Waltz in Minnesota.
Trustworthy as if they come out on top of it, then something it tells you something not just about that person or that moment. It maybe wounds us as a democracy and in a way that is hard to repair.
Russia was interfering in the election.
Not one vote was altered. That's according to the NSA. And again, Clinton's campaign, according to their own emails, wanted Trump to win. So how on earth could Clinton's campaign want Trump to win according to their own emails? And the Russians also wanted Trump, which is a complete absurd nonsense. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that.
And they weren't doing it on their own, and he was in on it.
The truth matters.
For years,
All right. So Hillary Clinton, she's the one that was saying the election was illegitimate when she lost. She paid for the Russian dirty dossier, and outlets like MSDNC and fake news CNN and the New York Times and Washington Post, they peddled those lies and conspiracy theories for years, and they were dead wrong. Truth matters. Not to Hillary, not to the media mob, none of them. They tried to discredit an election by spreading lies and conspiracy theories about Donald Trump and Russia. They're still pushing them 6 years, 7 years later. The Durham probe found that Crossfire Hurricane was never, ever justified. Russia did not hack the 2016 election. Donald Trump was not an illegitimate president. There wasn't a single thing that he found in the Russian disinformation dossier Hillary paid for that was true.
And all of this is before the declassified documents. They all lied through their teeth under oath. Let's continue.
She and her allies never faced any consequences for spreading actual Russian disinformation that they paid for. Hillary also never faced any legal consequences for mishandling top secret classified material stored on her unsecure private servers that many enemy countries were able to hack into, like China. Her office, her home, was never raided. Neither was Joe Biden's. They had top secret classified information everywhere. She never faced charges for obstructing justice after deleting 33,000 subpoenaed emails, wiping servers, hard drives clean with bleach bit, and smashing phones and Blackberries with hammers. She also never faced any consequences from the Uranium One scandal. Remember, that was the scandal that resulted in Russia, one of our biggest geopolitical foes, getting 20% of our uranium, critical to the enrichment of our nuclear weapons, and we don't have enough of it. Hillary also never faced consequences for Benghazi, all those sketchy foreign business payments to the Clinton Foundation. So I go back to my point. If you are a prominent Democrat, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You will get away with it. Another example.
Up until recently, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's really hilarious. Democrats say, oh, we lost by 9 points in Tennessee. It's like, okay. We won in Virginia and New Jersey. All right. These are traditionally blue states. But Trump almost won New Jersey. That's a fact. He won Virginia. Do you think J.D. Vance is going to lose to Newsom in 2028 or to AOC? You think J.D. Vance or Rubio? It's between J.D. Vance and Rubio in 28. It's not between anyone else. The Democrats, in terms of a presidential contest election in 28, are irrelevant, basically, politically. So they can, if they win back the House, so what? That's going to happen because they have all of media parroting their stupid talking points. Okay, that's almost certainly going to happen, okay? They were on the brink of losing it months back, right? But they'll probably get enough. I mean, who knows? They could possibly lose it. The Supreme Court, with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and other decisions, Democrats have an uphill battle still. But they're in a good position to take back the House. But so what? It's the presidency right now that matters. Really, it's the presidency. Congress, in many ways, is inept. It's the presidency that really counts. And is anyone going to, you think Democrats are going to win in 2028? Does any Democrat think that? Even they don't think that.
The family of a certain Democratic senator turned vice president and raking in tens of millions of dollars in cash from corrupt countries, our top geopolitical foes, and is often the case around the globe. Russia, China, Romania, Kazakhstan, Ukraine. This family syndicate, led by Hunter Biden, at the time a drug addict, had absolutely no experience at all with these countries, or in the case of Ukraine and China, in the energy sphere, but he's getting paid a fortune, millions and millions of dollars, thanks to Pops. They had but one thing to sell, and that was the Biden brand, the Joe Biden brand, access to a prominent.
And those pardons are unconstitutional. We talk about that all the time.
Senator turned vice president, now you're President Joe Biden. They set up phone calls, they had meetings, they had dinners at the beautiful Cafe Milano with the big guy, and even reportedly got Pops to alter U.S. policy for a price. At least one trusted source accused Joe Biden and his son of accepting a multi-million-dollar bribe, and tonight a mountain of other evidence suggesting Joe got paid in a multitude of other ways. A former Biden business partner told the New York Post that multiple Biden family members, they paid for pretty much all of Joe's living expenses. Quote, it's vacations, it's cell phones, it's money to pay taxes. This is Joe Biden's brothers, sisters, children, grandchildren taking care of him. They were the ones being paid a fortune, cashing in on Joe Biden's name and position. And according to a 2018 text from Hunter Biden, he paid for Dad's bills for more than a decade, including credit card charges from Hunter's Wells Fargo account. So why was Hunter paying Pop's bills? Why were members of his family, 9 members, according to James Comer, why were they getting all this money from all these foreign countries? What did Hunter Biden, what did the grandchildren do to receive these massive sums of money? All the while, Hunter was, quote, neglecting, to pay taxes on millions of dollars in income. It's almost as if they were operating as one illicit organization with the big guy at the top. And then, of course, he had his friends slow walking the investigation, letting the statute of limitations run out. How great a gig is this? This is typically what you see in a real RICO or racketeering case. But President Biden, he's not been charged with any crimes. Welcome to Joe Biden's America. In fact, as far as we know, he's not even under investigation. Instead, it's former President Trump, 18 others, including his own lawyers.
Again, this was before President Trump won. But let's continue.
No attorney-client privilege. That has been waived. We'll get rid of that. We'll use the crime fraud exception. Charged with racketeering. They're not accused of accepting foreign bribes in exchange for policy decisions like that 1023 form says. Like Joe Biden, they're not accused of paying an ex-foreign spy to spread Russian disinformation and interfere with an election like Hillary Clinton. Instead, they're accused of challenging election results, something Democrats have been doing since Al Gore tried to reverse the 2000 election in Florida by finding votes with only selective recounts, only in Democratic districts. That's what they tried. For left-wing prosecutors charging Donald Trump, it isn't about the truth. It's not about democracy. It's about power. It's about vengeance. And it's about blocking Donald Trump from ever going before the voters to even become president, give them the option of him becoming president again. Democrats have now bludgeoned our justice system.
So there's no statute of limitations to this. And this is John Ratcliffe talking about that. So Clinton will get indicted in 2026, almost certainly.
The DOJ's strike force, named last week to investigate evidence disclosed about the Russia collusion hoax, with a look at next legal steps as we continue to search for accountability for the biggest political scandal of our time. And after a bombshell week with DNI, Tulsi Gabbard disclosed.
By the way, if you're new to this channel, hit subscribe right now.
Disclosing something this audience has suspected for a long time, that President Barack Obama may have been pulling the strings after Trump won in the November 2016 election, pushing a plan to muddy up the incoming president's name and handicap his new administration with a phony story about Russia. This past week, DNA Gabbard sent criminal referrals to the Department of Justice, and the DOJ announced the formation of that strike force to evaluate the evidence presented. Coming up, the timeline to destroying Trump's reputation with the two men who saw it coming from day one while exposing the Russia collusion with Trump made-up fantasy concocted by Hillary Clinton and her 2016 presidential campaign. CIA Director John Ratcliffe and Trump Media and Telecom CEO Devin Nunes are here. Just days after Director of National Intelligence Gabbard declassified the House Intelligence Committee report prepared in 2020 based on then Congressman Nunes's investigation that the intelligence community did not have any direct information or evidence that Russian President Putin wanted to help elect Donald Trump in 2016. Despite the assessment repeatedly listed in the daily presidential briefing, then President Obama ordered a new report which completely contradicted the original assessment. Here's DNI Tulsi with me here.
So the intelligence showed that there was no Trump-Russia collusion. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that. It was so absurd and outlandish and nonsensical. It was obviously fabricated. The intelligence initially stated there was no. Clinton lost. She had a terrible campaign. It was a terrible campaign. They cheated Bernie Sanders, private servers with top secret intel. Same thing. I mean, Democrats expect the entire country to just fall in line the way Democrats voters do. People aren't gonna just accept that. Bernie Sanders will, oh yes, you tell me how high I should jump, Debbie and Hillary, and I'll agree with anything. But the average American is not just gonna be like, oh okay, oh you're just gonna kick out Biden, oh you have top secret intelligence on servers. Oh, you cheated Bernie Sanders? Oh, that's normal. You don't have functioning primaries? The average person thinks that's completely nuts. So they're not going to fall in line. But Democrats expect everyone to fall. And if they don't fall in line, it's like, oh my God, the Russians.
Exclusively last Sunday.
The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe will join me shortly. But first, a flashback to 2018 with me here 7 years ago.
Hey everyone, we're having our biggest
Again, all of this ties in. It's not just Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, Maria. What's important and significant about what Devin Nunes told you earlier is more than 70 witnesses appeared before the House Intelligence Committee. All of them were asked the same question. What evidence do you have of Russian collusion with Donald Trump or the Trump campaign? What evidence do you have of conspiracy? What evidence do you have of coordination? And they batted 1,000 in their response. These are folks like Susan Rice and Samantha Power, senior DOJ and department officials and intelligence and law enforcement officials, and they all said, we don't have any. So what we have known and what I want the public to see from these transcripts is that our law enforcement and intelligence communities have known for a while that there isn't evidence of Russian collusion with Donald Trump or the Trump campaign. And the sooner the public finds that out, the better off we'll all be.
And joining me right now, back 7 years later in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive, is the current director of the CIA, once again, John Ratcliffe. Director, thanks so much for being here this morning.
It's important to note that it took 10 years to go from Brennan to Ratcliffe. Think about that.
Great to see you, Maria. Great to be back with you.
And thank you for all of your truth-telling over the years. We will speak with Devin Nunes, who opened this up wide so many years ago. But I want to get your reaction to what we're seeing now with Tulsi Gabbard highlighting the truth here, as you have done so many years ago.
Well, Maria, before the intelligence community assessment that DNI Gabbard was talking about, and before Devin Nunes' report about that intelligence community assessment, before the Mueller investigation, before Crossfire Hurricane, there was this. In the summer of 2016, U.S. intelligence intercepted Russian intelligence talking about a Hillary Clinton plan to falsely accuse Donald Trump of Russia collusion, to vilify him and smear him with what would become known infamously as the Steele dossier. And Maria, this intelligence was so explosive that John Brennan briefed President Obama, Vice President Biden, Jim Clapper, James Comey, the entire national security team, telling them about this Hillary Clinton plan. Again, but think about this, Maria. That was in August of 2016, and yet it wasn't until more than 4 years later, in October of 2020, when I found, after an exhaustive search, John Brennan's handwritten notes and the underlying intelligence behind it, that revealed exactly what happened. So for a 4-year period of time, the truth about the origins of the Russia collusion hoax was hidden from the American people. And unfortunately...
So these are handwritten notes from Brennan, Comey, and others. They have handwritten notes. They have all the receipts. And so it's only a matter of time. I mean, they're going to indict Comey again. They're going to indict Letitia James. They're going to indict Brennan, Clinton. And you know what? We saw that there were technicalities, the prosecutor, but at the end of the day, they won't always be able to say, okay, well, throw this case out of court. They're going to have to actually try the case eventually, whatever the case is, conspiracy statutes, anything they level. And it ain't going to work for the people who, we all know what happened. This isn't rocket science. Imagine if the tables were turned and Trump accused an incoming Democrat of colluding with Russia with a dossier that literally he purchased. I mean, it's completely preposterous, but that's American politics in this day and age.
Maria, as you recall, those same people were already at that point in time onto their next hoax, the Hunter Biden laptop. This was a month before the 2020 election. And unfortunately, what we saw with Joe Biden's election was another 4 years to be able to continue to bury the truth. And so it's only now, with Donald Trump having been reelected, that through DNI Gabbard, myself, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, all of this intelligence, all of this evidence that's been hidden and buried from the American people is finally coming to light.
Yeah. We just showed a picture of John Brennan's notes, and I want to go back to those because you just referenced them. These are handwritten notes that John Brennan took during that meeting.
So these are the handwritten notes. They prove that they all committed perjury. Look, I don't dislike Brennan, Comey, Clinton. I don't care about who they are as individuals or their morality. See, Democrats take it very personal. They look at Trump. They've been deceived and indoctrinated by 10 years of lies. They're not really, the average Democrat is a beautiful, wonderful, amazing human being. They're not really into politics. They're kind of into politics, not really. They'll read the Washington Post and New York Times, and they'll listen to jokes that Jimmy Kimmel, jokes from Jimmy Kimmel. They watch the ladies at The View. They're not really that into politics. They don't really understand. There's a lot of pundits that make millions peddling the most absurd lies. But they're not really into the truth. The truth is that Trump was set up and framed. And so the great Christopher Hitchens used to say, just because you're partisan or being partisan doesn't mean that you're not right, that you're not on the side of truth. It happens to be that Trump is on the side of truth. It's the truth. He didn't collude with Russia. That is an outlandish, absurd fabrication. Trump never worked with Russia to defeat Clinton. It was not difficult to defeat Clinton. The Comey letter defeated Clinton. When Comey wrote that letter, that was the end of the campaign. It was mostly James Comey's. Had Comey not written the letter, Clinton could have won. And I say this as somebody who loves Trump and thanks God that he won. And that he won again. It wasn't the Russians or bots. It was Clinton cheated Bernie Sanders, or the DNC and Clinton and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and others were involved in cheating Bernie Sanders. They had top secret intelligence funneled onto servers. And then Comey did something very bizarre, writing that Comey letter, which was a cover-up initially, and then he wrote the Comey letter, which I still don't understand, even though I think I have a pretty good grasp of how nefarious it all is. I still don't get it. Comey probably wrote the Comey letter not because he found classified data being forwarded from Uma Abedin to Anthony Weiner. I mean, he had more classified data swirling around outside U.S. government networks than ever before. It was the greatest cybersecurity and national security nightmare of all time. But, I mean, Comey wrote that letter almost certainly to tell Clinton, hey, I have the goods on you also, so you better not fire me. That type of thing. Who knows? Who knows? He was like the bald guy from Game of Thrones. What was his name? Okay, he played both sides. But anyway, let's continue.
With Obama and the other top lieutenants, where he writes that Russia is aware of the Hillary Clinton plan to tie Donald Trump to a Russia story. And these notes is something that you highlighted many times, that Devin Nunes highlighted many times. Is this what you're saying was hidden, these handwritten notes and the obvious story right then and there in the meeting with President Obama, where John Brennan was writing notes down as far as what he was telling and discussing with that team?
Well, think about it, Maria. During that 4-year period of time, think about the countless interviews that Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Jim Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan gave to the public, and testimony that they gave under oath about how Russia was involved in our election. And not one time, not a single time, did they ever reference what became verified intelligence, a Hillary Clinton plan. Verified, Maria, because in 2020, Hillary Clinton's own campaign manager took the oath under penalty of perjury in the trial of Michael Sussman and was asked about this plan and said, yes, there was a plan, and Hillary Clinton personally approved it. So,
by the way, if you're new to this channel, hit subscribe, please, right now.
all they did was talk about the fake Steele dossier, but never talked about the true intelligence, the true origins of the Russia collusion hoax. Was that this was a Hillary Clinton campaign scheme. Yeah. Really incredible. And, Devin Nunes, your next guest, truly an American hero trying to bring these things to light. And again, now we have the opportunity.
Devin Nunes is an American hero, for sure. He was in the eye of the storm, faced the entire weight of the U.S. government when it was leveled against Trump 10 years ago.
To do exactly that.
Yeah, he sure is a hero, and so are you, Director. Look, our audience knows this, thanks to you and thanks to Devin Nunes. Our audience is well aware of what took place here, but we want to see accountability. Many of the statute of limitations have expired. It's been almost.
This is very important. Check this out. Very important.
10 years for many of these folks who did this. But John Brennan testified to Congress, and so did Hillary Clinton, within 5 years. I think it was in 2020, right, and then again in 2021. Are those statute of limitations still live? Tell me if, in fact, we could see a criminal prosecution here, as you just the other day, 3 weeks ago, have in fact referred criminal referrals to the DOJ.
Well, Maria, so part of what came out last week was about how John Brennan, Clapper, Comey, they all pushed the known fake Steele dossier into intelligence community assessments and as the basis for Crossfire Hurricane and all that. But what hasn't come out yet, and what's going to come out, is the underlying intelligence that I have spent the last few months making recommendations about final declassification and sent that to the Department of Justice that will come out in the John Durham report, classified annex. And what that intelligence shows, Maria, is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims, by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to. And you're right, Maria. John Brennan testified to John Durham in August of 2020. He also testified to the House Oversight Committee in 2022. Hillary Clinton testified before John Durham under oath in 2022. James Comey testified before the Senate committee in September 2020. All of that's within the last 5 years. And much of that testimony is, frankly, completely inconsistent with what our underlying intelligence that is about to be declassified in the Durham Annex, what that reflects. And so, you know, Pam Bondi does have a strike force. It is a different Department of Justice, a different FBI, and an opportunity to look at how these people really did conspire to run a hoax, a fraud on the American people and against Donald Trump's presidency. And so coming forward, we understand that they did this, but now we need to understand how they did this. And I think that's why
they did it through bureaucracy, 18 U.S. Code 371, other statutes as well. You can't simply walk around someone's car and then bash their taillights and say, well, you know what? I think we're going to have to write a ticket for you. You have a broken taillight. You can't sit. That's exactly what they did to Trump from a bureaucratic standpoint.
You see the left losing their minds over this, Maria, saying, why are you spending time? This is vindictive. You're going back. This is Donald Trump, seeking retribution. It's not. Donald Trump's election by the American people was a statement, Maria. They said to everyone, we know what you did to Donald Trump, and we reelected him because we know this was all fake. We know it was a hoax. Now we want to understand how you did it so that it can't happen again. And that's what this declassification process that we're undergoing right now, what's going on, why it's so important, and why there can be accountability and preventability to prevent these same people that did it in 2016 with the Steele dossier, with the Hunter Biden laptop in 2020, from doing it again in the future.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals, and why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word treason. Is there a statute of limitations on treason?
Now check this out, ladies and gentlemen. There's no statute of limitations for conspiracy. 18 U.S. Code 371.
Well, Maria, what I would say is this, is there is no doubt in my mind that the people that we just talked about conspired. They conspired against President Trump. They conspired against the American people. And so I'll leave it to Pam Bondi and our Department of Justice, Kash Patel and our FBI to investigate the conspiracy to do what and what charges that they're capable of bringing. But again, I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And Maria, part of why this is so important is the people behind this are still furthering the conspiracy. They're refusing to admit or acknowledge what they did in 2016 and what they did in 2020 was wrong.
Have I not told you, ladies and gentlemen, we're still living in 2016? It's like the Matrix or some kind of Star Trek episode. We are still living in 2016. There is no statute of limitations for indicting Clinton, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, all the people who set up, who possibly and potentially set up and framed Trump. Hit subscribe to this channel. God bless you all. Again, I don't have any animus towards Clinton or Comey or anybody else. They committed crimes almost certainly. It is what it is. Now Trump is going to indict these people. Hit subscribe.